So I chose environmental art for my presentation. I was really interested in how artists would interact with the natural world and create art out of the natural environment. Um, I'm also really interested in like climate change and stuff like that. I saw this statistic that said this summer is going to be the hottest summer of the last 200 years, but it's going to be the coolest summer of the next 200 years. Um, so, yeah, stuff like that is scary to hear. So, I was really interested in seeing the environmental side of art. So, environmental art can be anything that addresses issues and topics of and related to the natural world, or it can explore the relationship between mankind and the natural environment. Within environmental art, there are also subcategories of land art, earth art, sustainable art, conceptual art, and eco art. It kind of saw a boost in popularity around the Industrial Revolution as people were more and more interested in how um, humankind would affect nature. And then there's this quote by Andy Goldworthy, who's a very famous artist, and he says, "It's not about art, it's just about life and the need to understand that a lot of things in life do not last." So you'll see some of his work deals with the temporariness of art pieces that are done in nature. I included the caves of Lascaux and Stonehenge just as examples of possible early environmental art. Not everyone might consider these environmental art, but I just thought of them when making this presentation because they are examples of humans interacting with the natural world and creating art out of the natural resources that exist. Um, I said here, environmental art can be anything that interacts with the natural world with the creator's intention of being art. So you see this painting here. This kind of is an example of how some natural artists feel, a desire for a healthy and peaceful environment between mankind and nature. You can see the human is there, obviously very peaceful, interacting peacefully and respectfully with the environment and nature, and all of the animals are happy, healthy, getting along, the glaciers are intact. This is like a utopia-like scene. This piece here is a sunflower sculpture that uses solar energy to dance, hence the name Dancing Sunflower. The artist wanted to draw attention to the fact that solar energy is very important and it could be a key to sustainable energy now and in the future. This artist, I found it really interesting that this artist uses like completely found materials. So everything you see in this nest here was found in the environment, retrieved in the environment, and then reconstructed into this sculpture in the environment. And this quote says, "By installing paintings or by integrating them into more complex installations, the work is literally implanted into nature. As a part of nature, the work lives and passes away with the rhythm of the seasons." So this piece of art would be left to naturally decompose and decay in its natural state that it was built in. And there's this quote by Professor John E. Thorns that says, "Environmental art is a new genre to describe works of art that are not only directly representational of the environment, but also works of art that are clearly non-representational and performative in terms of much less direct interpretation, but more active engagement of the audience." So the next few pieces are they have elements of like performance art and engagement, and they're very like hands-on. So this piece by Richard Long, he was hitchhiking, and between being picked up, he just stopped in this field and walked back and forth until it made this clear line in the field. And like I said, it has an aspect of performance art and it's very like interactional with nature. This piece by Betty Beaumont is also very famous, one of her most famous works. She teamed up with like 40 scientists and created an artificial reef out of coal that was going to go to waste and go to like a natural resource landfill that would have harmed the environment. Um, Beaumont focuses heavily on sustainability throughout her career, and this piece is a great example of the ecological side of environmental art. So, as you saw in the previous pieces, environmental art can be paintings talking about the environment or sculptures relating to certain natural resources, or it can be literally focused on ecology and how to help the environment. This is a piece by Andy Goldworthy. It was constructed over a course of a few years from many shards of limestone. He explored the creation of structure and pattern within this piece. He says, I'm fascinated by the way a cone grows, stone upon stone, layer by layer, as a tree does, ring upon ring. He's known for creating playing with like texture and structure in his work and creating those things out of natural resources around him. Again, this piece was after it was made, it was left to be in nature and kind of return to nature. This is a very famous work of environmental art. This artist, along with a group of volunteers, planted 2 acres of wheat in New York, and the location of this piece was very important at the time. The quote says, "This work seemed to stare down the World Trade Center, one of New York's significant symbols of power, and force the viewer to confront difficult questions on the divide between rich and poor, between pastoral and technocratic, and how people embrace progress." So, by placing these 2 acres of wheat right in the middle of this, bustling city, it causes people to ask themselves questions about the environment and the relationship between, again, humankind and nature. And this is just a quote I wanted to include to finish. It says, "We often forget that we are nature. Nature is not something separate from us. So when we say that we have lost our connection to nature, we have lost our connection to ourselves." And I think that's really cool, and I think that it kind of summarizes a lot of what environmental art is about, focusing on the relationship that humans have with nature and how we should stay connected to nature, respect nature, and try to keep the world healthy.